contains the details of what will happen to you in the next life if you do this in this life, kind of detail. Chapter number 5 exclusively deals with the punishments every human being will be handed over if he does some problem. Verse number 7 in chapter number 5 in Garuda Purana says, what are the punishments a person has to suffer if he or she tries to hurt the sentiments of the teacher. David Bodhi, a Bodhi man who well, if you look back at the last lecture, we were discussing the different kinds of pressures modern business has to face. And we were also trying to see how information systems in general and IT in general and information systems in specific can help any business organization to withstand the pressures and to become more successful. One of the strategies that a modern organization can employ, we told, is building what we call as a strategic information system. That will be the focus of today's class on what really is strategic information system and what is its place in the discussion that we are having today in class. Well, to begin with, all of us know what a strategy is. Strategy is a well thought of process which takes into consideration the variety of forces which has to be withstood in any modern day organization and implemented through a series of steps. Of course, one may recall the very famous formulation of this problem by Michael Porter. We'll start our discussion with that. What I'll do is I will give a general description on Porter's 5 force principle. We go on to describe 12 strategies which modern organizations can employ in general. And in the second part, see how IT can help you implement these strategies. That will be the way we'll organize this. So first thing we have to understand is what really is a strategy. Michael Porter, in his very famous formulation, said that the outcome of a strategy is achieving what he called as a competitive edge. Achieving competitive edge is the ultimate result of having a strategy. Why should you have strategy? Because you want to have a competitive edge. That's what this formulation is. So how to form that strategy? He said, if you want to form a strategy, you should first understand the scenario. The modern business scenario looks like this. He said, any business organization is acted upon by 5 forces. How you deal with these 5 forces is the question. What are those 5 forces? First force. First forces, competition. Please forgive me for my bad spelling. Competition within the industry. No business organization will have a monopoly on doing that particular activity. It will have competitors. So the immediate force or threat for any business organization is the competitors within the industry. You have to have some way of dealing with your competitors. That is the first force. The two other forces are, one force new entrants. Every organization should be aware that any given point of time a new player may come into the market. See the problem of a new player coming into the market. He will have more energy, he will have more enthusiasm, he will have more resources to spend. As I keep repeating, if you consider the whole business environment as a war, think of existing players like wounded soldiers. And new players coming in are fresh soldiers coming into the war zone. They will definitely have much more energy, they can take much more cuts on their bodies because they are fresh. Meaning, even if they are making loss today, they will assume that by the time they are making profit, they will be more energetic. Old players should not. It's a very interesting idea. I will not elaborate more on this. The other threat is the threat of substitutes. You may be having a wonderful product in your hand, but that does not mean that people will keep using your product for a long time. If they get a substitute which is efficient, which is cheaper and much more beneficial, they will switch over. Example, typewriter was a de facto instrument for a long time. Once computer came, there is typewriters today. Where are the people who are manufacturing typewriters? Think of photography. Where are the companies who are making film rolls today? In a new business environment, they are substituted by digital cameras. So every product should be aware about the substitutes. Anytime they may come into the market, once they come, you will have nowhere to go. That is one more force. Two more forces are, one is the force of suppliers. People who give raw materials, give the financing, give manpower to your industry will have a huge influence on you. The bank which is giving you the loan will say, yes, you have to be profitable in next 2 years. The guys who are giving you the raw materials will say, see, now there is one more player in the market, I am increasing the price of the raw materials by 10%. If you want to take it from me, otherwise you go wherever you want. That would be a problem for you. So suppliers definitely have a powerful, force with them, which when they apply, we have to know how to deal with it. Another area, last area, and the most important force acting on us are customers. Once my customers feel bad about my product, for whatever reason, the kind of influence they have in my business, that is enormous. Think about Cadbury's. One small bad publicity, the influence on that huge company. One bad series of products of the chargers from Nokia, earlier with Dell and Sony laptops. How many units had to be recalled? I understand that even i10 cars of a particular batch are now being recalled because of faulty power windows. The kind of gas is not influenced with i10, I understand, a particular series has a problem in the power windows. Anyway, that's not important for us. Fine. Well, I don't own a car, so I have no issue. The point simply is this. The moment my customers start having a say, I cannot assume that my customers are all that innocent and will accept whatever I give them. We have seen from the previous discussion that because of the technology revolution which is happening today, my customers are very well informed. start exercising their choice, I am in for a trouble. So, the combined effect of these 5 forces should be dealt very well, and my strategy is the tool I use to deal with these 5 forces. Please understand, it is not one force acting on me at a point of time. Any given point of time, 5 forces are acting on me. And my strategy should be well formed as to deal with all these 5 forces. All these strategies results in my design choice always. As I keep saying, any designer, engineering specifically, has 2 choices: quality and price. Quality and price are the 2 choices any designer has to make. I am not saying there is one-to-one relation between them. It's not so simple. I am not saying a product which is of a high price will have high quality. I am not saying that. But the reverse is true. That if I start reducing the price, I may have to compromise the quality. A well-formed strategy, after considering all these forces, should enable you to take the right decision. What should be the quality of my product? What should be its price? If you are just able to balance this correctly, you will be successful. So all these strategies helps you to take the right position. What should be my view on quality? What should be my view on price? Right? This balancing is the ultimate goal of strategies. So what are these strategies? Let us see. Traditionally, we say there are only 3 strategies in the world. The classic book on competitive strategy says there are only 3 strategies. But as time has moved on, people have added many strategies. As far as I can recall today in the discussion, we can have 12 strategies, 12 strategies. Right? I will discuss all the 12 and see how IT can help. 12 strategies. First strategy. The 3 strategies are standard leadership given by Paul. We will not discuss anything more about that. I hope all of you know. Cost leadership. In any strategy class, the first strategy I always talk to students is cost leadership. I have always proposed that cost leadership does not mean you reduce your price. No, that's a wrong idea. Just because you have lower price than your competitor does not mean you will be successful. It's not correct. Cost leadership should be understood like this. Every customer has an idea of how much he should pay for a product or service. He has a basic idea. If he feels that the price which you have fixed is right for the kind of the product that he selects, he will go ahead buy it. So cost leadership is actually convincing your customers that the price they are paying to the product is worth it. That's all, nothing more. So that is why even some companies with a very high price tag also retain the market leadership. That's because people are ready to pay that much price. Right? So that is all about perception in customers' mind. Don't mistake cost leadership for cheap prices. No. Cheap products always don't sell. Best example in front of our eyes, Akai. Akai Electronics. They reduced their price to such a ridiculous level. Today we don't know where Akai is. Right? Differentiation, the second classic strategy. How am I dealing with these forces? In cost leadership, we say that I am effective in cost. So that is why I can withstand the competition from my competitors. Others can't compete with me because my cost factor is very strong. That is how you argue there. Here you argue saying that maybe new guys will come, they may substitute anything, but I offer them a different product. different experience, different because my product gives them something which others don't give. Why iPod remains the most successful consumer electronic product in spite of so many music players being there in the market? The difference in user experience, not technologically great product. Some of the music players are much more technically advanced. The whole packaging was different. So the difference may come at any way. It may be your sales strategy, it may be the way you provide the customer care to your customers, any area, but you differentiate from the competition. That is one more classic strategy. Other classic strategy is innovation. Innovation again does not limit itself to the product. All the successful companies doesn't come with something innovative. Right? For example, the classic example given in this area is Citibank in its introduction of ATMs as a means to do banking. How innovation is? See, innovation does not help you for a long time. After a point of time, whatever you innovate, other people in the market will copy that. Will copy that particular innovation what you have done, and then it becomes a standard. For example, for a long time, the innovation of Citibank, and why Citibank was successful, because it was having ATM. Now every bank has ATM, so it is no more innovation. That becomes a necessity. Right? It's a business reality. So many people try different things. For example, in consumer products, for example, let us say energy drinks, or something which is very simple to copy. For example, say pens. It's easily duplicated. You can duplicate it in an easy way. So what they do is, the innovation comes in the product design. Why do you see different shaped energy drinks? The product will not be different. The shape of the container will be different, because that will be difficult to replicate. So they want the duplication to come down in the market. That is why they have differently shaped containers. Right? And put a lot of emphasis on advertising and other things in trying to educate the customers regarding that aspect. So these things are done in the market. We can go on discussing that. I will just end it here. So these three are basic strategies. In fact, I also firmly believe that any strategy you discuss in the world should be contained in these three only. Either you have to choose cost leadership, or you have to be innovative, or it should be different. This is a classic study. But as I have said, Rainer Porter and Turban also have added many strategies. Nothing wrong, we will study them. The new mantra, I think, of this age, one strategy which every company should adopt, is to keep customer at the center of everything. You can see how this thinking has influenced even in software engineering design. If you see how we build software today, at a point of time we were calling that process as system analysis and design, SAD. Then we improved upon it and said it is SSAD, systematic system analysis and design. The leap from SSAD to object orientation was accepted in the industry because of the introduction of what we call as use case scenarios in requirement collection. You may have learned use case scenario way of requirement collection focuses on user experiences and user stories. Ultimately, we say, what is a good software? A good software is one which satisfies the requirements of a user. Now, how do you collect it? Through use cases. Like this, doing everything within a business organization, keeping customer at the focus, is one of the strategies. Accepted strategy. Yes, we'll accept. Next, see, in most of the companies,
so you mentioned object-oriented. Could I ask you a question? So, but object-oriented design has not lived up to its promises. I believe with the promises of reuse and all of those things.
it's always a tragedy of any great philosophy. The initial promise will never be delivered. That is where there is scope for all of us to think again and work, like an artificial intelligence. Right? Okay. The next strategy is that, see, you need not do anything new always. Whatever the business organization is doing, if it does the same thing in a much more rigorous fashion, if it brings some amount of efficiency in doing the same operation, most companies will continue to survive. If you see the history of companies who existed from a long time, for 100 years, 150 years, you see that they have not changed much. Let me give two examples. Bata has existed from a really long time. They don't do anything innovative, they do not do anything different. Whatever they do it with much more efficiency. That is the reason why they are successful. Second thing I always keep saying is my favorite brand, Indian brand, Amul. Amul does nothing new from the times they started their operations. All their efforts to diversify, getting into new markets have failed. Now they have understood that their core business, whatever it is, they have to retain that and keep focusing on that to increase the efficiency. I think there are many examples like this. If one dig deep into the history of business, you can come out with it. The point is very simple. If you increase the efficiency of the operations in any organization, that itself can be a good strategy. You need not think anything else. Whatever you do it correctly first. Then let us think of anything else. Common sense logic. Thank you. Next strategy is a golden rule for new companies. If you want to enter a crowded market, how should you enter? You should have a firm focus. You say that I will target only this market, a very niche market, maybe having a limited scope, but nevertheless, if you are able to spot that opportunity, you can move on business. There are many examples. In fact, I like Woodlands because of that. Why Woodlands becomes a very good case study in business is because despite the market pressures, any company cannot withstand the pressure to come out with a cheap rated product, lower range product for a long time. If you see any company, for a while, if they are satisfying some band of customers, after a point of time they will have the pressure to come out with a new variety of shoes which can cater to the larger public. The argument given will be that this band is very small for growth. Let us come out with one more model or one more range of shoes which can cater to the broader public at a lower price. Woodlands has resisted this for a long time. They have not diluted their brand value. It's not easy. They have a specific set of customers in their mind and they are happy if they satisfy them. They are least bothered about others. That focus is, I think that is something which all of us should appreciate. So, focusing on a very low niche market which can give you guaranteed profit is really a very good strategy. But then, after a point of time, you should definitely think of growth. How do you grow? There are two strategies. One is increase the penetration of your market or increase the spread of your market. There are only two possible ways for growth. Right? Market focus. One more business strategy which I often keep saying that which we don't follow in India especially, but which is a reality in the Western world, is forming alliances or partnerships. Today it is unthinkable in India that two software companies coming together and forming a new entity. That's unthinkable. But in the Western world it's not so. Today if Microsoft and Yahoo comes together, nobody will raise their eyebrow. Or if Sun and Oracle come together, nobody will raise an eyebrow. Only one natural way of growing in any industry is consolidation of the industry by merging, joint venture or something happening in that market. This has reached its peak in energy market. In energy market, you don't see 10,000 players. There are 4 or 5 players who have consolidated the market. Right? If you see the mobile phone scenario in India, today there are many players in the market. Nobody will benefit if there are so many players in the market. The industry will see some profit only if consolidation will start happening in this market. It will happen. Slowly but surely consolidation will happen. I don't know when this will happen in IT industry. It may take a long time. But alliances and partnership are definitely a strategy which any company can benefit from. One of the potential problem here, as we have seen, all this strategy we are doing because we have to deal with this. We have to deal with this. You can map every strategy and see how it will help you deal with this situation. One problem is this: new entrants and substitutes. That strategy says you create an entry barrier. Entry barrier so that no new player can come into the market. Example, huge license fee. For example, today, say you want to start a software company. It's very simple. It takes not more than 5,000 rupees to start an IT company in India as of today. That is why you see 10,000 companies coming up every day and 15,000 companies dying every year. But it's not so in other industries. Why? Because, for example, take cellular itself, mobile companies. They have to participate in the spectrum auction. They have to be allotted that particular spectrum, and in particular states, there's a huge license fee they have to pay. Only those companies who are eligible to pay that much as license fee, only they can come and participate. Others can't. That is one kind of entry barrier. Some professions have an entry barrier in terms of license. For example, say pilot. IT, anybody can be an IT engineer, but not so as a pilot. If you want to be a pilot, you have to have this many minimum hours of flying experience, then you have to get a license, only then you can participate as a pilot. There is an entry barrier, meaning you are discouraging new players from coming into the market and acting as some kind of quality inspector in between. It serves both the purpose. So whether having an entry barrier is a good strategy or not, we can discuss. Locking in the customers is one more strategy. In fact, whether it is ethical or not, again I am not at all going for value discussion. For example, if this strategy envisions dealing with this force. See, customers will act as a force only when they have a choice. They will say, I am buying your product. If you are not giving me your product, it's okay, I'll buy from someone else. That is a force. What I am saying is, once the customers come to me, I will lock them in so that they won't go to someone. How do you do that? There are many ways. For example, discuss on why some companies should give you privilege cards or membership cards. By giving you the discount cards called as loyalty cards or something else, they are forcing you to come back. That is a way of locking in indirectly. They are telling you, come back to us, I will give you more discount. The more you take from me, the more discount I will give you. That is one way of locking in. Technically, there can be other forms of locking in. Best example which happened in the IT industry is a particular company, names not to be taken, said if you want to use the application that I have developed, you should use this operating system only. Or another way, if you are using my operating system, you should use my application only. That is how they locked in. Not allowing any competitor to exist in the market. Right? So locking in is a strategy, ethical or not, I leave it to you. As a matter of fact, which business strategy is ethical? Vyaparam, Droha Chintanam. No good thing as said.
That's that one.
Switching cost. This is related to this strategy. You lock in your customer. He'll say, I'll go. See that if he goes to your competitor, there is a huge switching cost. So huge that he should have no other way but to stay with you. Example, let me give you. Say for example, there is a travel agency. Travel agency who is responsible for booking the tickets. Now I being the member of say some KSRTC, let's say Karnataka State. What I will do is, I will give him an equipment through which he can access only my services. He can't book the tickets of APSRTC or TMRTC. That means I am locking in my customer, and if he wants to switch over to someone else, I am saying you again invest, which he may not do. In most of the cases, the suppliers and the companies do like this. For example, if my supplier is giving me some product, he will ask that they will have a computer system, I will have a computer system. Please go back to the original discussion we had. There is an idea of extranets. If we both use the same supply chain management software, there is a seamless operation between us. Now, if that supplier wants to shift from my company to my competitor, there is a separate setup he has to do that will take time. So, through the use of technology, I am locking in my customer and at the same time creating a switching cost. Right? So, if you want to go to competitor, he has to again invest so much which he may not be able. Right? So, create a switching cost. Last strategy. Raynor, Turnbull and Porter have not elaborated on what is meant by time as a strategy. But let me elaborate. You may have the best of technology with you. You may have the best of distributors, attractive offers. Mallika Sherawat as a brand ambassador, oh, she's not reigning in the marketplace. Someone who is superstar with a brand ambassador, everything going for you. But if you don't time your product correctly, if a technology doesn't come to the market at the right time, you will never be successful. Let me give 2 examples. Why did the dot-com bubble burst happen in 1999-2000? The main reason was no one was ready to accept such a huge technology revolution. The network was very slow. Websites were made. Websites in those days, because everybody was interested in e-commerce, suddenly became so heavy with graphics. all colorful jingbang websites. I remember a website called Boo.com. Boo.com was a big thing to happen in the year 1999-2000. It had a shopping assistant, a Barbie doll kind of a lady figure coming in the website and asking you where to fill what you want, shopping site. But instead of traditional shopping, they said let there be a lady and she has a card like this and you have to enter there what you want and then she goes and all that funny stuff. Good. But with the given internet speed of that time, we could never open the front page and see that lady guide. What about the shopping? Payment gateways were not ready. Banks were not ready to gear up to that particular infrastructure requirement. So I think .com burst should not be attributed. That burst did not happen because people were not technically competent. No. The society at large was not ready to accept such a technology. It may happen. So if the timing is not right, everything may go wrong. I give one more example. Pagers. In between static mobile, that is the landline phones, and the arrival of mobile phones, there was a brief period of pagers. Why did it fail? That failed because whatever the services were provided by pager were soon replaced by mobile phones. Pagers were not upgraded for voice basing, they were primarily for texting, which was soon taken over by mobile phones. So the timing of the technology was not right. Had pagers come 5 years before, it would have had a longer shelf life. So the rise of pager was coincided with the rise of mobile phone. As the mobile phones rise, pagers came. Timing was not right. So time is the most important strategy. You may have everything, but if you don't time it properly, it happens everything. Film. You may have best of the crew, best of the storyline. If you don't time your film release correctly, film will flop. Kannada film industry example kodbekandre I can't recall the name of the movie, but I'll tell you what happened. Interesting movie, everything was great, but it was released 10 days after the death of Rajkumar. Vijay Raghavendra heroine. Vijay Raghavendra hero, Ramya heroine. ಎಷ್ಟು ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ?